In this modern age of having access to every single training metric that you can imagine, is there something that we have forgotten about? Have we become so obsessed by the metrics and data that these devices throw out to us that we have entirely forgotten about the age-old art of training by feel? Well, that's got me thinking, have we completely forgotten about the idea of gauging our effort and training sessions simply based on how we're feeling, how fit we are, or how tired we are, rather than what our gadgets, devices, computers, or training plans are telling us? Well, today I thought I'd delve into this to see whether we should be worrying a little less about what these are telling us and more about what this is telling us. Okay, before we get into this, let's pause for a moment and remind ourselves of what we have available at our fingertips nowadays in terms of devices, metrics, data, and so on, because the list really goes on. I mean, we've got pace, speed, power, heart rate, cadence, and that's just some of the most basic bits of metric. And then, of course, if we delve into it deeper, we've got normalized power, vertical oscillation, left and right power distribution, ground contact time. Heck, we've even got devices that can calculate our rotation when we swim, and even devices that will show us our speed and our pace within the lenses of our goggles whilst we're swimming in real time. And of course, don't get me wrong, GPS sports watches like I've got on here, power meters, head units, are all brilliant. They provide some superb information, but how about we strip it right back to the bare essentials? I'm talking things like simply how long have you been out for, and paying close attention to how you're feeling whilst doing that. How does that effort feel? How hard is it? How much tiredness is it creating? Basically, becoming more attuned with how fit you are and paying close attention to how your body is feeling. And this got me thinking, how did we manage back in the day before we had any of these fancy gadgets or performance tracking devices other than simply the trusty sports watch? Well, this is where I thought a deep dive into the records book proved rather interesting, or at least I thought so anyway. Now, logic might suggest that with these advancements in technology that we would have just seen the records tumble and tumble as the years have gone on. And yeah, sure, in cycling we have seen some pretty significant advancements, partly due to our better understanding of aerodynamics and the equipment that we use. But I also took a glance at the athletics records for here in the UK, and at the pinnacle of the endurance events, the marathon, that record stood for 33 years until a certain Mo Farah finally broke that in 2018. And then we got the middle distance legends, Steve Cram and Seb Coe, who still hold the 800 and mile records, which were set way back when in the early 1980s. Now, the only data that these greats were able to pull upon was simply the splits that their coaches yelled out to them from the sidelines of the track during their workouts. Now, unquestionably, at the core of their training was this incredible ability to work hard and suffer like very few of us could imagine, and that has led to these exceptional results that clearly weren't driven by lots of data and tech. Of course, this skill of training by feel was something that was learned over years of training and practice, and was extremely well developed for these top athletes. They just knew when to push harder, when even to ease off, or even take a rest day. And actually, it goes as far as saying some athletes still use very similar methods today, particularly the Ethiopian and Kenyan runners. They use a very simple training methodology. But this isn't simply limited to elite athletes. In fact, it can be adopted by anyone of any ability and any level. Okay, so how does this approach now transfer to our own training schedules with our own busy work, life, family commitments? Well, if done correctly, then this more flexible approach to training can actually help to improve our performance and, more all important, consistency with our training. Now, if you have a coach, then the chances are that they're setting you your training weeks in advance, a couple of weeks, maybe even a month in advance. Now, in an ideal world, you would have regular contact with your coach, perhaps even face-to-face, as with these elite athletes that I've just mentioned. That way you're getting that feedback loop. You're able to relay how you're feeling to the coach on a regular basis, and they can adapt your training to suit. But I'd hazard a guess that for most of you out there, that is not the case. So most of us end up resorting to these metrics that are quite often automatically downloaded from our devices as soon as we finish working out, and those are uploaded to our coaches. But unfortunately, these sometimes only tell part of the story. They're not explaining how you actually feel. I mean, there's many ways we can spin this one, but as a bit of an example, you may have done a bike workout and you finished and you find out that your power is lower than expected, but actually you felt absolutely fine during that workout. In fact, you may have felt great. And perhaps actually you just had a bit of a tailwind, but for a coach taking a glance at that, that may have been a red flag. Your power wasn't as high as should have been, and maybe you didn't perform as well as you could have. And likewise, in a tempo run, the data and the metrics may say that your heart rate's slightly higher than it should have been, but you otherwise felt okay and well in control. But a coach may look at that and instantly raise a red flag again because, yeah, your heart rate was too high and therefore you were perhaps pushing harder than you should have been. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is the importance of listening to your body and how you feel, and that can lead to you being more consistent as an athlete rather than solely relying on the metrics. For instance, you may feel fantastic on a day and therefore you decide to push on in your training, go hard in the workouts. But probably more importantly, if you woke up and you didn't feel very good and that day's training had stated to go hard in a workout, well, hopefully you'd feel confident, having listened to your body, that you would reschedule and back off that day and then therefore be more consistent going forwards. Right then, it's about time I round this video up, and as I highlighted earlier, having this ability and confidence to train by feel can allow you to change, adapt and mold your training at the drop of a hat to fit with any life events, sudden life events, or how you're feeling on that day and so on and so forth. And yes, in today's video, I've used examples of long-standing world records, which, let's be honest, probably applies to very few of us out there. But what it does remind us is that we don't necessarily need to solely rely on these fancy gadgets, metrics, and data. Of course, it does take some time and some experience to be able to train by feel effectively and well. Let's take, for instance, a threshold bike workout. If you're going to do that and go too hard because you're not in tune with your body, then you defeat the whole object of that workout and you could end up digging yourself a very deep, dark hole. So that is where these gadgets, the metrics and data really do come into play and have their place and could be very, very valuable. So my advice personally would be to actually find a blend of the two, trying to learn how to listen to our body, but maybe using these metrics and data, which I'll be honest, I rely on very heavily, but using them there as a backup and getting them to help us get in tune with our body too. So let's say, for instance, you might go out for an easy ride, leave your computer at home or just ignore it completely. And that way you're just getting in touch with your body. Maybe a tempo bike workout or run workout, maybe ignore the numbers on the device and try and get in tune with your body, and then just glance at them every so often just to check that you are in the right ballpark. Anyway, that's just my ideas. I'm rambling on here, but I'd love to hear from you guys. Do any of you train by feel, or do you solely rely on the metrics and data and you fully in that kind of party that is the way forward to try and improve your performance? Please get involved in the comments section down below. Love to hear from you. I hope you have enjoyed today's video and all my ramblings. If so, please do give it a like. Don't forget to give us a follow over on social media, and if you're not doing so already, give us a subscribe just down below.